All right, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening, WNBA and women's basketball fans. We greatly and deeply apologize for the little bit of a minor delay we had. We were trying to work some technical difficulties out of the way on my end of the broadcast. The computer's been a little bit spotty and iffy and not at full strength today, but hopefully we got those bugs worked out. Welcome in, folks, to the WNBA 365 Network, your 24/7 365 comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball universe. Back with you, folks, after the off weekend and back for the next couple days here on the program. But for right now, we'll be joined tonight for the time being by Crystal Thomas, joining us up in Los Angeles, California. We'll be joined as well by our other outstanding correspondent, Marquez Anderson, momentarily. Crystal, it's a little quiet in here. We've had some people kind of put on injured reserve right now, a couple of people out sick and, of course, away with other commitments. But thanks for stopping by joining us. How's it going tonight? Good to see you.
It's going well. Busy, but well.
Yeah, busy for everybody. Now, again, folks, before we do get to anything about the weekend, of course, folks, again, you guys can hit us up on Facebook and on Twitter, or even follow us on Instagram, folks. Again, it is at WNBA365 for both Twitter and Instagram, or hit any of us up on Twitter. It's at Calimac3, at Pup1010, or at WBB_247, and please include the hashtag WNBA365, or you can, of course, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/WNBA365. And, folks, as a reminder, I will be in Phoenix this upcoming weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And, again, I will be actually in charge of the Instagram Host Eye View takeover on Sunday from the Talking Stick Resort Arena in Phoenix, Arizona, when the Mercury will host the Washington Mystics at 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern. You can catch that game on WNBA League Pass. So, Crystal, we want to get, though, folks, the big news of the day broken earlier on this Monday. Of course, Crystal, the news for the day, well, official today, but Stephanie White, the head coach of the Indiana Fever, will be accepting the head coaching position at Vanderbilt University, announced earlier today, made official, set in stone. So, Crystal, as you think about this now, folks, a little bit of clarity here. Stephanie White will be the head coach of the Fever for the remainder of the 2016 season. Just so that where there's no litigation, but she will be there through the entire Fever season, whenever it may end. And Crystal, something told me, I think, my gut had told me something, or maybe my mind had told me something, that maybe White was probably going to take this job offer. Because as we alluded to, though, of course, with the pay gap between the WNBA or the NBA and college sometimes, there's a very big gap, at least in the WNBA's case, in regards to pay and all that stuff, but also as well, she's going to have more control, though, too, about who she signs and brings in and everything like that. Crystal, your reaction and overall thoughts to Stephanie White accepting the head coaching position at Vanderbilt University?
I kind of figured she was going to take the job as soon as that the Indiana Fever released a statement. It kind of pretty much said, her dream was to coach college basketball, and that she's always wanted to, have that dream fulfilled. And I don't think it's just so much for money reasons. I think that she pretty much took the job because, like you said, you get more control over who you sign, who's on your staff, what you could do with the program. So I think it was more so wanting to be able to take more creative control over the process of the team and the program.
Now, Crystal, also they did also name a associate assistant coach, or they did hire another coach to go along with Stephanie White for next season, of course, and that is longtime ESPN analyst Carolyn Peck will be joining her on the sidelines of the bench, at least. So, Crystal, what do you make those about Vanderbilt, pretty much going all out, bringing in a coach that has coached pro ball and can teach these younger kids about what it takes to get to the WNBA or even an overseas team, but also bringing in, I would probably call Carolyn Peck, a very, obviously a very well named, but also, a women's basketball icon, I'd say, though, as well, in regards to, all of her great media work, with ESPN over the years, and, really being, one of the faces of ESPN women's college basketball or women's basketball coverage in your mind. What does that mean to you, and what do you think?
Well, for one, there goes the Big Ten sportscasters right there. There they go. But for two, I think it's going to be a pretty good thing. Carolyn Peck knows what she's talking about. She knows what she's doing, and so does Stephanie White. So I'm pretty excited to see how Vanderbilt will turn out. I think that program will turn around pretty quickly. I think it will do like what Maryland did as soon as they got Brenda Freeze there. You know, within the next year, they were already, well, in Maryland's case, they won a national title, but you know, within the next year, they were already a dominant force to be reckoned with. So it's going to be exciting to see what Stephanie White can do with that team. I think she will do that team some justice, and it's just going to be an interesting season.
Now, Crystal, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but with you, of course, being one of our panel members that has played basketball longer than a lot of us did or have, you know, what does it mean to you as a player knowing that you have a head coach who has pro-level coaching experience now stepping down to coach college basketball? What does that do for you as a player, you know, in regards to knowing, again, that your coach, again, was at one point, you know, coaching in the professional ranks?
As a player, that's kind of something that you would love. You know, especially if you want to go to the next level, whether it be the WNBA or overseas, you want a person who's been there so they can show you how to get there. You want them to tell you how it was. You want them to let you know, what the workouts will be like, what the travel will be like. And so you want to learn from somebody who has that experience. I think that's pretty cool that they're getting that experience. That's kind of rare. Not many people get to have that experience on any level. So I think that they should appreciate it and enjoy it. I think it's awesome for them to get such an experience like that.
And folks, we will now welcome in the third man tonight for tonight's broadcast team, our good buddy Marquez Anderson from at WBB _247 on Twitter. Marquez, good to see you, man. How's it going tonight? All right, so I think Marquez might be having his own technical problems, perhaps. But Marquez, if you can hear us, man, we're just alluding to again the big news of the day once more. But again, Stephanie White. Okay, so we will. Marquez again is, or he is actually having some technical faults. So try to get those worked out for the show, folks. But obviously, even during the show, we're not having a whole lot of luck right now. But hopefully, Marquez can hop back in sometime momentarily. We will go right now to the chat box, Crystal, and visit with our good man Todd Mintz, asking, or actually, it looked like he was a little bit tongue-tied or a little confused. But Todd, Stephanie White is going to be coaching at Vanderbilt with Carolyn Peck as an assistant coach at this rate. Let's see what Todd is asking, trying to get the little clarification on his question. But we'll come back to Todd and his question momentarily. But again, Todd, in case you did get confused, but Stephanie White coaching Vanderbilt next season after the Fever season ends. Carolyn Peck will be her assistant with the Vanderbilt Commodores this season. Replacement head coach to be determined once the season does end for Indiana. So, Crystal, we'll now move to the back to the WNBA real quick. Again, folks, if you may have seen the article put out today on our Twitter feed about 10 o'clock PDT this morning. We will now, folks, instead of us doing like a homer pick or bias towards the 12 teams in the league, we have now left the power ranking system in the hands of trusty hard drives and computers for a new weekly blog post that is called WNBA 365 Rank 'em Weekly, folks. Now, again, in case you were really confused or lost about this, again, this is a system that was implemented by one of my announcing colleagues, Chris Davis, last season when we were working with the Arena Football League, which at the time was a 12-team league before it had some problems this year. And Chris would rank the teams based on a criteria of categories from overall team record to opponents' records and so on and so forth. So basically there was a total of 12 different categories that we would weigh each team's schedule. And just like that, we would put it into a Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, and it would spit out power rankings amongst, like I said, a bunch of categories. So if you guys were a bit confused there, that's kind of what it is. But again, the category criteria for how the rankings are determined, folks, again, goes as follows. Again, it is by overall team record, the opponent's overall record, points for, points against, overall win percentage, the opponent's win percentage, average points scored in a game, the average points against for a game, point differential, road wins, home losses, and then once all that is entered into the database, we are given the rankings. And folks, you can catch the rankings both on the blog site but also in the right bar of your screen on the network website. Your rankings after week one go as follows in pecking order: Los Angeles, Minnesota, New York, Dallas, Chicago, Indiana, Atlanta, Seattle, Connecticut, Washington, and San Antonio and Phoenix round out the Week 1 rankings. And again, folks, as well should mention, but smallest to highest points for the ranking system is the way that we go. So, Crystal, obviously this is kind of a more this is obviously more of a analytical approach to a power ranking system. Again, I know that it was probably a lot to digest for fans out there, but again, instead of us making homer picks towards the Sparks or the Stars or whatnot, why not leave it in control with the brightest minds and all of technology in the computer system? And Crystal, this system has been used by the Arena Football League for at least since last season, when my colleague Chris Davis had put the system in place through his computer and his web base. So again, obviously, it does look pretty good, though. Again, that you have the 2 unbeaten teams, both 1-2, New York at 2-1, and yes, Dallas maybe 3-1. But again, the other 3 teams have not played 4 games yet. So, Crystal, if you had probably looked across the rankings again, and I know it's probably a lot of math and numbers to digest, but Crystal, obviously, with this system, I guess, in place, do you believe, though, that the computers may have gotten it right for the Week 1 rankings through the first couple games of the year?
Maybe. When it comes to rankings like that, though, whether it's from a computer or from individuals, I believe it's still too early to rank anything. Like you said, a couple of teams have never even played 3 games yet. But maybe. I mean, I think looking at the rankings, I could see Minnesota being number 1 as well. I mean, they have been playing a lot cleaner than LA has, even though LA's undefeated. LA has been playing a little bit sloppy. But I can see that. It could probably be vice versa with those two. But when it comes to rankings, I kind of hate to do it this early in the season because it's only been a week or 2 weeks into the season. So everything's still early. But I mean, I can see some accuracies there.
And Marquez, this was a way, though, I think, to rank without anyone having some type of bias towards their hometown team or just bias in general, and sort of, a fair system put in place again. It does take, pretty much almost every major statistical category, standings-wise at least, between your record, everyone else's record, the points you score and points against, and how many you average, so on and so forth. Plus, it does add, or, also. The 2 factors I also do look at in the system again is, there's a few bonus points you can save for winning on the road or if you lose at home or whatnot. But again, Marquez, obviously, it looks like it's sort of, I think, maybe 90% or maybe 95% accurate. Again, this is a system that, again, obviously through one week, those Chris alluded to, it might be a bit tough. But Marquez, do you think, though, that perhaps this system might be right, for perhaps Week 1 again with what you're seeing across the board?
Okay, first, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I think for those rankings, I can see a couple of the teams being flip-flopped. Like, I can see Minnesota being first because they have been pretty impressive with what they've done so far. But top to bottom, that was pretty accurate. I don't really have much to complain about because it's only been a season. I mean, it's only been a week in the season, and so much can change, but it looks about right.
And by the way, Todd, Phoenix and San Antonio are both tied for 11th right now at this point. So just in case anyone's wondering. But again, folks, we're trying our best to, again, kind of get rid of the of any bias that we may have towards other teams for displeasure. But again, the system, again, has worked in recent years, again, with the Arena Football League using the system over the past couple seasons. But again, if you do want to find out those rankings, again, you can visit the website. Again, they are listed as the top blog post, or you can also find them weekly as well on the power rankings right below the game schedule. But again, to reiterate again, it is LA, Minnesota, New York, Dallas 1-4, Chicago, Indy, Atlanta, Seattle, Connecticut, Washington, and then San Antonio and Phoenix all tied at in 11th. And again, the system rankings again will be put out every Monday on the website, and will also be kept up to date as well on the sidebar as well of the website. And also, again, as a reminder, again, it is smallest to largest for number 1 through 12 rankings. All right, guys, let's go back and instead of talking about analytics, let's get back on track and talk some more hoops. Again, a lot of good games over the weekend in the WNBA at this point. Again, had some pretty good action And we will also, before we get to the scores, guys, get to the players of the week. It is Maya Moore of the Minnesota Lynx of the Western Conference and Tina Charles being named player of the week for the Eastern Conference from the New York Liberty. Crystal, two players that had, obviously monster weeks, of course, for the opening week of play. I mean, Tina Charles was an absolute monster in the first 3 games of the Liberty, and of course, Maya Moore's Maya Moore, and again, seeing her play very well was good to see. Crystal, thoughts about the WNBA handing out some weekly hardware to Maya Moore and Tina Charles as conference players of the week?
Sorry about that background noise if you heard that. There's bad kids running outside, need to be asleep. But anyway, I want to say one thing. Did you guys see that block that Maya Moore put on Breanna Stewart?
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing. That was amazing. That right there was worthy of player of the week. I mean, she had a really good week. I think that sealed the deal for her, though, because I think it was really close on who they could have picked. But that play alone made me kind of just go, oh, like watching that play, that gave her player of the week, and I think it's deserved. I mean, we already know Maya Moore is a star in this league. We already know she gets after it. Probably when it's all said and done, again, it's too early. She's probably going to be in the running for MVP. It's too early. I'm not saying she's winning it, guys. I'm just saying she's probably going to be in the running for it. But I think it's well-deserved on her part.
And Marquez, obviously with the rankings that we now have on the site and, of course, with MVP voting, of course, way too early to talk about anything in regards to that, obviously through 3 or 4 games in the season. But, Marquez, how about your overall thoughts? Again, Maya Moore, Tina Charles, both named players of the week for respective conferences in the WNBA for week numero uno. What do you think?
Yeah, they both had really good weeks. Maya especially, that block was a really good one, and she had some really good plays to seal the deal against Seattle. But there's no probably about it. I think she is going to be one of the top contenders for the MVP this year because as far as she can take Minnesota, I think that's going to be the better for her chances. And I think if Minnesota keeps going at this rate, they're going to be one of the top teams.
And again, folks, we already said again, Minnesota and LA, the lone 2 unbeaten teams in the WNBA, and both those teams 1 and 2 on our power rankings this past week. With that, and guys, obviously, to be player of the week, you have to do something very special. And again, I look though at Tina Charles again, who, outside of Sugar Rogers, I mean, played, had a phenomenal week of play. Obviously, how much she has meant to the Liberty since being traded there. And again, just how much of a presence she is in the paint, of course, kind of, detracts or kind of makes players, kind of like move out of the way because they know that, Tina's going to do a lot of work and had a great week. But again, folks, congrats to Maya Moore and Tina Charles of the New York Liberty, and of course Maya Moore from the Minnesota Lynx, both named WNBA Conference Players of the Week for the opening week of the 2016 season. Guys, to revisit the scoreboard from yesterday's action in the WNBA, a couple of good ones yesterday. Both games were good ones to watch toward the final end of the game. Starting off, guys, with the Sky and Dream. Atlanta knocks off the Sky 87-81 from Phillips Arena. So, Crystal, Chicago takes a rough one on the road. Close game again, only a 6-point loss. But again, Chicago, again, a little rough out of the gate, of course. But again, we have to keep in mind though that this was only EDD's second or third game back from her illness. So obviously, that's a tough one. I think is obviously losing a tough one to a team like Atlanta, who of course we know has had some problems. But Crystal, overall thoughts again about seeing Atlanta win at home for their home opener over Chicago on Sunday. And again, very good game they played, I think.
Yeah, overall, it was a good game played. I think for Atlanta, that was a good win for them because they were another team who played decent but kind of looked bad at the same time. So I think especially for that being their home opener and they got the win in their home opener, I think that kind of woke them up a little bit and lit a fire in them. So they were like, okay, it's different rules this year. There's no, conferences. We gotta start picking it up. And I think that will help them out a little bit. But I mean, like I said, it's still early. But it was a good game overall. And for Chicago, they kind of hit a couple of bumps here and there. I mean, they're 1-2. I wasn't expecting them to be 1-2. I thought they would at least have 2 wins right now, but I think eventually they will get together. They got their leader back in EDD. Whenever she gets her wind underneath her and gets back into shape because she was sick, I think they will start picking up the wins, and I think they will start playing a little bit better. But I mean, it was a close game. You know, I have to give Atlanta credit. They came out and they pulled it out against a tough Chicago team, even without EDD. So I don't expect Chicago to be down in the dumps for too long.
Marquez, want to ask you a question from Todd Mintz again, our fourth man in the Hangout, but more so our guy in the chat box. Todd is asking, does Atlanta have a better team now than what we thought earlier in the season? What do you think, Marquez?
Ooh, it's hard to say because I mean it's still early, but the games that they've been in, they've been pretty close, and they've fought really hard each night. And I think the thing of it is with them is they have pieces, but I don't particularly know how they all gel just yet. Because I mean they look decent, but like Crystal said, they still have instances where they don't look that good. But at the same time, I wouldn't. They're not really someone that you can just guarantee a win with, you know.
Yeah, and Todd also Todd also chimes in and says Clarendon played well. Hayes and others not that short of talent. Can they grab the 8 spot, Crystal, in your mind? What do you think?
Can they? Yes. Will they? That's a different story. I mean, anything can happen. Anything is possible. I mean, it's a long season. They've only played, 3 games, 4 games, so there's a lot of season to go. You know, will be the answer. Will they? I don't know. Can they? If they keep on a straight and narrow path, yes, they'll have to squeak it out to get in there, but we're just going to have to wait and see.
Marquez, what do you think? I mean, I know it's tough to kind of, make playoff predictions this early in the year, but what are your thoughts, though? Could ATL possibly be a team that snags that 8 seed perhaps and get in the back door this year?
Well, they can, but I think it's just going to be a little bit tougher for them because, like I said, they're not the most talented top to bottom team, but at the same time, they have pieces that some of the other teams fighting for that last spot may not have. Because, I mean, you have Hayes, McCautry, Little, and if Clarendon can keep up with performances, that's going to be huge for them as well. So I think they have a chance as much as anyone does fighting for that last spot, especially if teams towards the bottom continue to struggle. But I'm not quite sure if they will, though.
All right, and also Todd wanted to say too, and sorry to Marquez, but he says he senses anyone can get the 8 spot, anybody but San Antonio at this point. Getting guys back to the scoreboard real quick. Minnesota over Seattle from Key Arena, 78-71. So another close game, Crystal. A game that perhaps went down to the wire, but you already brought up the block though about Maya Moore stuffing Brandon Stewart in the game as well, which of course was a pretty big play for the Lynx, who now go to 3-0 to start off their 2016 campaign. Crystal, your final takeaway from Minnesota improving to 3-0 on the season?
I mean, are we really surprised? Minnesota, even though I throw a lot of jokes about them not winning the championship again, they're a really good team. You have to give credit where credit's due. They're a good team. Maya Moore, not Maya Moore. Simone Augustus is looking really healthy, which is really scary for teams out there. For the past couple of years, Simone Augustus hadn't really been looking as healthy as she's been, but she's looking really healthy. She's looking in shape. She's got that extra bounce to her step now, and that's going to be a really scary thing, for anybody who has to play them. But, I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, do we really expect less from Minnesota each year? Probably not.
Yeah, Marquez, I think, though, that as Chris alluded to, the health for the Lynx this year, is probably the healthiest Lynx team we've seen in quite some time, again, with how Whalen's is in shape and is healthy. Augustus is also healthy, as Chris brought up again. And are we surprised? I'm not surprised at all that they're 3-0 again. We've seen this from them, year in and year out, where they have always, started off strong, and they always finish strong as well. But Marquez, final takeaway from Seattle and Minnesota from yesterday. All right, so Marquez with some more technical problems there. I think, though, Crystal, that you're onto something. But at the same time, though, we already know, though, that Minnesota, it's not really a surprise to me, though, that they are 3-0. And again, Seattle, for them, keeping another game close, but them being on the wrong end of it, sadly, I think, as much as Seattle has lost, I mean, the 30-point game already once, losing to Los Angeles, and then this one, losing to Minnesota. Those I think, though, are still confidence boosters, I think, for a very young team in Seattle. still learning the ropes, you can kind of say. But again, they hung around with the defending champs
really quick
for a little bit. Marquez, let's try it again, buddy. What's your final thoughts about Seattle and Minnesota? Yeah, all right. So we'll try and do better next time with that. But again, folks, to recap your Sunday scoreboard from yesterday, Chicago falls to Atlanta in the Dreams home opener 87-81, and Minnesota over Seattle 78-71. Crystal and Marquez get to the games for tomorrow. 2 games on the WNBA schedule tomorrow beginning at 8 a.m. Pacific time in the morning. My goodness gracious. And wrapping up with a ESPN telecast at 4 o'clock p.m. Starting off tomorrow with Atlanta visiting New York at 8 a.m. in the morning Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So, Crystal, yeah, the face you just made, I think, in regards to the start time is one thing. That's a pretty early start time for a weekday game to kick off week 2 of the season. But, Crystal, again, okay, so Atlanta's coming off a home opening win to open up their home schedule, facing a Liberty team that's probably chomping at the bit to get back to work after losing a OT thriller to Los Angeles on Sunday. Crystal, how about a preview and some thoughts for the upcoming game between ATL and New York on tomorrow morning?
Well, one, I'm gonna have to sneak watch that 8 a.m. game in my 8 a.m. class to really see what's going on. Just gotta put the headphones in. But you know what? I think that's gonna be a really close game. I think I have a feeling that Atlanta might squeak it out by a little bit, but that's going to be a really close game. I think both of these teams are going to come out and be competitive. I think both of them are going to have a competitive edge. Their records are the same. They're both 2-1. I would say Atlanta probably plays a little bit more fast paced and New York's a little bit more in control. So if Atlanta could keep control with their pace and make sure New York doesn't throw them off, I think Atlanta can win, but it's going to be a really close game.
Any time Atlanta plays New York, I get hyped because this is, Showtime versus the Bad Boys, round whatever it is between Bill Laimbeer and Michael Cooper once more. And folks, actually as a knockoff story to this, as you may remember on the show back over the offseason, Michael Cooper actually come to Point Loma Nazarene University where I announced baseball games, and I actually talked to Coop about his, long-standing rivalry with Bill Laimbeer, and I asked him about what happens when Atlanta plays New York, and he says, "Calvin, we got to have extra security at both venues whenever we play each other because there's still that much animosity between Bill Laimbeer and Michael Cooper." Sorry, folks, but again, Marquez Anderson's having some technical problems, and hopefully he'll be able to hop back in sometime soon. Crystal, to bank off you, again, both teams even Steven record-wise 2-1. But again, this is a game, though, that I think could be an early fork in the road for Atlanta going into Madison Square Garden, obviously one of the well-known buildings in the NBA and also in the W plus the NHL. It's not the easiest of places to win in, pretty much in the W, of course. And I think, though, that New York will have some extra motivation coming off of that, overtime loss on Sunday, Crystal, where they, had led pretty much all game and, a little minor slip, a little minor hiccup there towards the end, and LA had tied the game up with that amazing run towards the end going forward. But again, folks, you catch the Dream in Liberty at 8 a.m. on NBA TV or locally on the MSG family of networks. And then, Crystal, the late night game at 4 o'clock, Pacific 7 Eastern on ESPN2. The unbeaten LA Sparks, off to their best start since 2003, will take on the Chicago Sky on ESPN2 from Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. And our good pal, Eric Nemchok, more likely will be at Tuesday's game. So, Crystal, first important question to ask here. Does LA keep the win streak going, but also what are your thoughts, though, about LA's 3-game win streak to start the season, their best start in club history since 2003?
LA can keep the win streak going if they don't play the same way they played against New York, Washington, or Seattle. And what I mean is, yes, those games were wins, but they were also very sloppy games. And I said it the last show that if LA came out sloppy, they're going to beat New York by a lot. And what happens? They don't beat New York by a lot. In fact, they almost lost to New York. So this is a different team. You can't. I don't think you can come out playing Chicago the way that you played Washington, the way that you played New York, the way you played Seattle. I think if you come out like that against Chicago, they're generally going to run away with the game. But Chicago also has a problem with keeping the lead. So this is going to be a very back and forth game. Honestly, this game could go either way. It's just going to be interesting to watch because both of these games, both of these teams can get streaky at times. They can kind of lose it. They get hot and cold. So it's going to be an interesting game to watch, and I think it's a good game for ESPN.
Yeah, Crystal, good game, of course, knowing that this will be the first of 2 times, again, with the new system format, Crystal, that you will see Candace Parker go back and play in front of family and friends in Chicago, of course, at Allstate Arena. But, Crystal, though, I do have one X factor perhaps in this game, at this point. If Courtney Vandersloot doesn't play for Chicago, LA may win this game pretty handily. That according to Todd Mintz, perhaps because Courtney V missing the game a couple days ago, or missing Chicago's last game yesterday with an apparent injury. So that could be a big thing. And also, Crystal, as well, agreeing with us as well as Steve Rice of Women's Basketball Daily. Steve says if Vandersloot is, he says, by the way, folks, and this is an update for you as well. Courtney Vandersloot listed as doubtful for tomorrow. Steve says if so, game over for LA winning this one. So, Crystal, what do you think, though, about that news? Again, Vandersloot doubtful to play against LA tomorrow.
I mean, honestly, even if Vandersloot was to play, it could still go either way. I mean, both of these teams are just very streaky, especially you've seen Chicago with that last game. The last game they played, I mean, they were supposed to win that game. It was just they're such a streaky team. So even if Vandersloot was playing, I don't know if it really make that much of a difference. Vandersloot is a good player, don't get me wrong. I actually really love Courtney Vandersloot's game, but I just with the style that these teams play, I don't know if it would really make that much of a difference.
All right, so I think we got Marquez back. It looks like it, yeah, so we got him back. So again, Marquez, some news to report from our good buddy Steve Rice of Women's Basketball Daily on Twitter. Folks, please follow Steve on Twitter. It's at WBB Daily. Again, Marquez, Vandersloot listed as doubtful for the LA game tomorrow, 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 Eastern. Also, Marquez, he's saying, if so, game over in his mind. Marquez, what do you think about this? Again, Vandersloot listed as doubtful for the Skies game versus the Sparks tomorrow evening.
Okay, well, first off, I'd like to apologize for that whirlwind of unfortunate events. Like, I had no control over what my computer was doing. But yeah, Vandersloot is big for them in terms of her playmaking ability. She's their assist leader. I think before she went out, she was leading the WNBA in assists, even though it was like a game. But with her out, Faulkner has to now be in the starting lineup, and she's someone that was big for them off the bench. So that really takes away some of their bench production with her out. And yeah, I will say if she's out, then LA's probably going to have an easier time with this one because she is a big part of their offense.
And again, Marquez, I want to go back to a point I brought up a little bit earlier in this block of the program, again, with LA playing Chicago. And folks, you can catch the LA Sparks play the Chicago Sky again, 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 Eastern time on ESPN2 tomorrow evening. Again, Marquez, LA off to their best start in club history, in recent history, since 2003, where, of course, they had gone to the WNBA Finals and were beaten by the Detroit Shock, denying them of a three-peat as well during the same time of the Lakers three-peat in the early 2000s. Marquez, as Crystal has, kind of said, though, that it's kind of a, wishy-washy 3-0 start for LA in regards to how they played every game post the Seattle game on May 15th. Well, Marquez, though, what are your thoughts, though, again, about seeing LA, playing with, perhaps more passion, but also, again, of how they have played so far through the 3 games in your mind?
Well, yeah, they've been pretty up and down because, I mean, they had those 2 big wins to start. Then they really had to fight for this last one with New York. I can't lie. I honestly had counted them out. I had really thought that they were done for. Then I kept checking the score, and I saw that they had snatched the wigs off New York, and I was like, well, dang. But yeah, I will say, though, they're going to have to clean that up as the season progresses because they can't keep playing so sloppy and expecting to pull out the wins like they did against New York.
So again, folks, your Tuesday menu of games to kick off week numero dos of WNBA Hoops. Atlanta and New York, 8 Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Catch that game on NBA TV or locally on MSG. Or you can catch LA Chicago at 4 o'clock in the evening on ESPN2 and the Watch ESPN app. And also, of course, all games live streaming on the WNBA League Pass application. At this point, Crystal, one question from Steve Rice. What are your impressions of Whitney Knight in her limited minutes of play?
I like Whitney Knight. Really nice chick, really shy. I love her game. I'm really glad LA picked her. You know what? They didn't pick who I thought they would in Tobin, so if they would have let go of Whitney Knight, I probably would have been a little hurt by that. But I'm glad they end up picking a quality rookie. I like Whitney Knight. I think when she develops into a better player, she will be very productive. But I like Whitney Knight.
You know, Marquez, it's tough to always judge the rookie specifically when they don't play a whole lot of minutes early in the season or in the season in general. And again, I know there's not a whole lot to bank on Whitney Knight, but Marquez, if you've box scores or catching games, what are your initial impressions about Whitney Knight? Again, a third-round pick that LA retained from training camp this season.
Yeah, I like her too. She's pretty athletic, and she's really good on the defensive side of the ball. She moves well, and she can pass really well for her size as well. And I think I'm glad New York decided to keep her because I honestly wasn't quite sure if they would or not. And they let go of someone that I thought they would keep in Tobin too. So, but based on what we've seen, I think she can turn into a really good player for them. It's just a matter of her getting the minutes.
And again, folks, to recap real quick again, in a nutshell, the LA-New York game on Saturday, the Sparks came back and had a 8-0 run in the final minute 18. And Tommen says, in regards to that, I think we need to be pleased of their fight in that game on Saturday against a bigger and better team than what they had played in those previous two games to begin their season. Again, earlier on, back on the 15th and 20th to begin the seasons. Guys, not a whole lot else to touch base on at this point. Again, folks, folks, if you want to check out again, if you want to go back and check out our WNBA 365 Rankem blog post, again, you can check it out on WNBA365.wix.com/WNBA365, or you can catch them. Again, they're going to be located as well in the bottom or on the right sidebar of the homepage again, and you can check out the rules and implications of how it works. Again, on that set one. Crystal, visit the What's Trending page on WNBA.com. The big talking point, first and foremost, for the trending coverage of this, real quick. Crystal, let's talk about the Dallas Wings in their home opener on Saturday. Again, they played the San Antonio Stars to kick off their home schedule, at least, for the 2016 season at the College Park Center on the campus of the University of Texas, Arlington, to begin their 2016 season at home. At least, Crystal, electric crowd. Good to see this, and good to see, of course, in Dallas, of course, and also seeing the Wings also wearing their lime green uniforms for, I believe, the second or third time this season as well. Crystal, good win for them, and of course to win their inaugural home game. Crystal, how about your overall thoughts though about the Dallas Wings home opener from UTA?
I think that lets you know how much fans Dallas really does have. That they were ready for that team. Dallas was ready for a team from the jump, and I'm kind of glad they made that transition from Tulsa to Dallas. So it lets you know that is going to be probably not a packed house, but it's going to be really well when they play home. And I'm kind of glad they win their home opener. I mean, it's always cool for, especially a new organization, to win their home opener, to let the fans know, like, hey, we're doing this for you and we support you. So keep coming out to the games. But it was an impressive win. Dallas is an impressive team.
And Marquez, I know I compare a lot of things to my jobs and whatnot, but I did not, unfortunately, go to the San Diego Gulls home opener when they first came back to San Diego. But they had sold out the Valley View Casino Center with over 13,000 people to see them beat Grand Rapids 4-2 in their inaugural home game as a franchise. But as Katie said, though, Marquez, it's always good, nice to see the new kids on the block win their first home game as a franchise. But Marquez, so what are your overall thoughts again about Dallas winning their inaugural home game as a franchise? Because remember, you can only do things once as a franchise.
Well, yeah, it was big for them, even though towards the end it kind of got a little bit dicey. But yeah, the crowd was really impressive.
Okay.
The crowd was really impressive. I'm not sure if it was a sellout, like it was said to be, but from the lower portion of the stadium, it looked pretty full, and it looked to be really energetic in there and loud and fun. And I think that area is gonna really embrace Dallas.
And the thing, though, I liked, though, guys, as well, was I saw a few quick videos from the Wings on Twitter, and I liked how they had the nice little score bug on the bottom part of their League Pass application, they actually just took the scoreboard feed or the scoreboard on the Videotrons there and put it embedded it into the video stream. I thought that was really nice to see that happen as well by them. Guys, also getting to one more talking point as well, kind of a little take your pick, guys, about coming up in the clutch. Crystal, more impressive game-tying or game-winning basket, Jewel Lloyd beating Phoenix or Tolliver tying New York late in the fourth quarter on Saturday?
I'm sorry, my thing froze a little bit. I think you asked a question about Chrissy Tolliver sending him to overtime. Is that what it was?
Yeah, the question from the What's Trending page that I want to pose to both of you guys. We'll start with Crystal on this. More or like better clutch performance? Is it Lloyd beating Phoenix at the final horn or Tolliver tying the Liberty to go to overtime?
I heard you that time. Sorry, my computer like froze the first time. That's a tough one. I know people think I'm probably gonna say Chrissy Tolliver though because like I'm a Sparks fan, but Lloyd actually won the game, so I'm gonna have to go with Lloyd. Chrissy Tolliver just sent the team to overtime, so I'm gonna have to pick Lloyd because Lloyd actually hit a game winner, whereas Chrissy Tolliver just hit a key shot that sent the game into overtime.
Yeah, I'd probably would agree, but Marquez, if you're there still, man, I think he is, but we'll see. But Marquez, what do you think? Better clutch performance, Lloyd beating Phoenix at the final horn, or Tolliver sending New York, LA to overtime?
Yeah, I have to agree. I'd go with Lloyd because, I mean, like you guys said, it was an actual game winner, even though Tolliver's was really impressive, though, because, I mean, it really saved the game because, I mean, LA did come back to win that one, though, but I'd have to go with Lloyd just for the sake of it being a game winner at the buzzer against a team that people thought they shouldn't have probably beaten.
Yeah, no, I think that there's more. I think that there's more for the resume's sake. I think in regards to there's more for Lloyd's buzzer beater as opposed to Tolliver tying the game to go to overtime in that sequence of events. But again, we're going to go with Lloyd beating the Mercury at the final buzzer for that basket as well. Looking across a few more What's Trending topics in the W so far, not much else to get through, and I think that should do it for that aspect of the What's Trending page. Some other news, guys, we wanted to get to real quick. Marquez, I believe you broke a story, I want to say, about the Mystics waiving a player today in regards to someone getting cut. Marquez, what can you report for us about that?
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce her full name, so I'm not even going to attempt. But the Washington decided to waive her, and I think it's because Sanders is coming over soon, because someone tweeted me that maybe it could be because Lotta's coming back, but even so, even with Lotta counted, it's still just 11. So I'm thinking Sanders is either coming back soon or they're just going to bring someone else to replace her, maybe a guard.
Crystal, the player that was cut today was Zoe Dimitrikou, who was waived today by the Mystics. But I've also heard, though, about reports from Anila Khan, of course, who from @W Hoops blogger on Twitter, our good friend from Toronto, saying that it sounds like Ivory Lotta could be back sometime soon. But also Steve Rice is reporting, though, as well, guys, in the chat box. Taylor Hill has arrived finally from her overseas commitment. So, Crystal, I guess the question now becomes, more important piece for the Mystics, Hill or Lotta, and why?
Lotta, for sure. I mean, right now you can see them struggling to. They're having struggles to get the ball rolling. I mean, they can't move the ball well. Dawson's not getting touches down there. Meeson is not getting touches down there. So I think when Lotta comes back, their offense will be that much better than what it is. I mean, right now they don't have anybody to really run their offense for them, and that has been a struggle for them. So I think Lotta will be a really key piece for whenever she's healthy and whenever she comes back.
And Marquez, what do you think? More important puzzle piece right now for the Mystics coming back to the team? Is it Lotta or is it Hill?
Wait, I thought Hill's been playing already.
Well, according to Steve Rice, it says that according to what he's reporting, it says Taylor Hill has arrived. So perhaps it could be one of those two. But what do you think, though?
Oh, well, anyways, Lotta, definitely, because, I mean, she's someone that can do a lot for them. She can make the three, something that they've been missing in these losses, and they just miss her offense and leadership, I think. So when she comes back, I think things will get a little bit better for them. But you can tell they've missed her. Like, what they have there now they're good, but they're not quite what she can do in terms of the offensive side of the ball and just the veteran leadership that she brings in general.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of like getting the captain of a team back, back in the swing of things again. So we're all going to say Lotta coming back will be the biggest talking point for the Mystics once they get back to full strength. All right, guys, we'll go around the perimeter one more time. And by the way, Steve Rice wanted to clean up his mistake. He said arrived as in finally fulfilling her potential. So that's what he was.
Okay.
That's what he was getting at more so than actually arriving back from overseas play. So Steve, thanks for cleaning up on aisle 3 for us over here, please. Guys, we'll now go around the perimeter one more time and get to everyone's game day selections and game day picks for Tuesday's games. Again, 2 games on the schedule, starting off with Crystal, Atlanta, and New York. Who do you got?
Close, but I guess Atlanta by a little bit.
All right, so we're going to go with the away team with Crystal. So she's got Atlanta knocking off the Liberty, perhaps an upset, a early upset of the year candidate, perhaps. Marquez, how about you?
I'll go with the New York, I think. I like the upset pick. I like it though, but I'm gonna go with New York. I'm gonna be safe.
He's going to go save and pick the Liberty. Guys, I think though that the Liberty, they're chomping at the bit to get back on the floor after, again, incrementally kind of, squandering that game on Sunday. Off day to rest, of course. So Marquez and I will both take the Liberty over the Dream tomorrow, and then of course, guys, the late night game on ESPN, 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. LA visit Chicago. Crystal, will LA go to 4-0 in your mind? But who wins this game and why? LA or Chicago?
I'm gonna say LA, but it's gonna be close. It's gonna be close. If LA comes out playing sloppy, they're definitely not gonna win this game. But I'll say LA by like 4 points.
All right, so she's got LA by 4. Marquez, how about you again? Thoughts about this and your game pick for LA and Chicago?
Oh, I'm gonna go with LA. Because I think top to bottom they are just better than what Chicago has at this point, especially if EDD isn't quite ready yet, and the Vandersloot absence is going to be big, I think.
Yeah, I think, guys, that I look at it 2 ways. I think if Vandersloot doesn't play, LA takes the cake, but if Vandersloot does play, then we have a whole new ball game, and I think that perhaps. With LA being up to a good start at 3-0, 9 times out of 10, if you're going to be on or currently in a 4, 7, or 11 game winning streak or losing streak, one of those streaks is bound to end. So I think if Vandersloot plays, LA could be perhaps in a bit of trouble. If Sloot doesn't play, then LA will take it. But I believe though that all of us will take the Sparks on this for the 2 games tomorrow. Again, folks, once more again, that is Atlanta, New York, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern from Madison Square Garden in New York, and at 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock in the evening on ESPN2, the Sparks will visit the Chicago Sky tomorrow in L.A., and also, as we should point out as well, but again as well, L.A. and Minnesota, the lone 2 teams still unbeaten this WNBA season through the first 3 games that they have played this year. With that, folks, again, we want to quickly, again, apologize for the little brief delay we had at the start of the program. Again, we were trying to get some technical problems worked out this evening. But thanks, though, folks, for bearing with us and hanging out with us tonight. We'll be back with you folks sometime, perhaps maybe tomorrow night. If not, we'll be back with you folks on Wednesday. And again, as a reminder as well, WNBA 365 goes on the road this weekend to Phoenix, Arizona. We'll have the post-I-View takeover by myself on Sunday from the Mystics-Mercury game at 3 in the afternoon from TSRA in the desert of Phoenix, Arizona. With that, though, folks, again, for Crystal Thomas in Los Angeles and our good buddy Marquez Anderson, this is Cal McClurk signing off. See you folks back here again on your 24/7, 365 home from the WNBA and the women's basketball world. Take care, folks, and good night. Bye-bye.